What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video on Juniper Rising, and today we're going to be doing something a little different. Today we're going to be comparing every single multiplayer in the Halo franchise, the numbered franchises, so just to see how the evolution came of this game. So hopefully you guys can sit back and relax, and we will begin with Halo CE. Now, Halo CE, I went back and it has been a while since I've played that game online. I probably haven't played it for an extended period online since the Master Chief Collection first came out. But I must say that this game has aged pretty well. There's still a few mechanics in it that just don't make sense in today's Twitch shooter enhanced movement world, which is things like the floaty jumping and the slow turning. But another thing that does stand out to me is how the weapons have changed. More specifically, the Magnum. Now, the Magnum is a slow fire rate but high impact weapon. I'm kind of using Destiny terminology, which means that its fire rate is very slow. It only shoots a few bullets. Its FPS is very slow. You're only going to get a couple shots in when fighting an enemy, but it has high impact. It's a three-shot headshot kill, which is very good compared to how Halo has moved into more of a high fire rate, low impact range for the Magnum. It's a welcome change, and it's actually really fun to use in Halo CE. I really do enjoy using it. The map design is a little dated. As you can see, I'm playing on Prisoner right now, which is one of my favorite maps from the Halo CE multiplayer, just because it has that extra level of verticality that you didn't really see back then. And it had a few different levels you could get up there, and you could really wreak havoc with a Magnum. Halo CE was incredibly simple. Even in the Halo Master Chief Collection, you can only play 2-on-2, which I believe was all you could really do locally anyway. So, except for the PC version, which I'll get into that later because there are many differences between that multiplayer and this multiplayer. But yeah, it's only 2-on-2, very small maps, very close quarters, but it's not very fast paced because of these slow movement speeds and a lot of long range combat, and that's where the Magnum comes into play. The Magnum basically plays the role as a DMR or a battle rifle in this game, since neither of those rifles are present, and the sniper rifle is a power weapon at this time. There is really no ranged rifles in this game. You have your assault rifle, which is a close quarters machine gun, and same with the plasma rifle. But there's really, compared to the weapon selection in the next couple of Halo games, there's not quite that many, especially weapons dispersed around the map, which has become sort of a trademark of Halo, is the weapons dispersed around the map. There's no energy sword. There's things like the concussion rifle, the needle rifle, DMR, and battle rifle in particular are missing, and it shows in the map design. You can definitely tell that people are basically starting off with the first DMR or battle rifle. I would probably compare this more to the DMR just because it's single shot and it's a slow rate of fire. Battle rifle was a 3-round burst, a little faster, but didn't have quite as much damage output. In the end, both of those weapons were actually pretty similar damage-wise. But another thing I noticed in this game is there is a lot of balance. Everything is pretty much symmetrical, most of the maps are, and not really until some of Halo 2, mostly Halo 3 and Halo 4, when Bungie and 343 began experimenting with asymmetrical maps, and you can definitely tell that, there's been an evolution there. As you can see in Prisoner, it's basically symmetrical. You have 2 ladders on each side, you have 2 second floors on each side, and a bridge that crosses connecting them. Very simple, very easy to get the hang of. Maps like Wizard, Hang 'em High, especially Battle Creek and Blood Gulch, they are all symmetrical maps. And that's a theme that you'll see in Halo CE. You'll see it in Halo CE on the PC too. So, yeah, that's pretty much what Halo CE has been on the console. Now we'll be moving on to Halo 2. Now, Halo 2, everything really changed. Everything is different. Halo 2 had one of the best map selections in the Halo franchise of all time, and you can immediately tell when going into Halo 2 how much evolution there was between this one and its predecessor. The gunplay is faster, it's faster paced, it's more competitive. There's a difference between Halo 2 was a very competitive game, while Halo CE's multiplayer was still, it was a split screen multiplayer, it was still aimed for casual players. Halo 2 is extremely fast-paced, and its gunplay is some of the best in the series and some of the best of any game, even by today's standards. The only thing that sets Halo 2 apart is there is not that enhanced mobility. There's no wall running, no double jumps, nothing like that. It's only single jumps. But I still, I'm a little biased towards the older Halo Arena games just because that's kind of what I started with. Those are my very first online shooters, was that Arena style, so I am a little biased towards this Arena style shooter, kind of this Quake early Halo style. And Halo 2 brings it back, and I think Halo 2 brings it back in the best possible way. I think it has some of the best gunplay, some of the best hitboxes in this series. It is extremely satisfying to pull off headshots. This is also the introduction of two very important weapons in the Halo series, and that's the battle rifle and the SMG. Now, the SMG will be forgotten in the Halo Reach and Halo 4 period, but I am so happy that it was brought back for Halo 5 because this weapon was pretty underrated, and I think it was very underused. A lot of people, when they play these games, they immediately go for the battle rifle because it's that mid-range rifle, and not that the battle rifle is a bad choice, but if you dual-wielded SMGs, it was pretty hard for people to take you down. I don't know if I have any gameplay, but I think I'll bring it up right here. So Halo 2 brought in this more range, more mid-range to long-range encounters that I think made it better. Halo 1 was very close range. Pretty much all you had was the Magnum. While you did spawn with the Magnum, so you still had those long-range encounters, and if someone found a sniper or whatever, you still had quite a few long-range encounters, but Halo 2's addition of the battle rifle made a huge difference. Now we'll be moving on to Halo 3. And Halo 3 actually is probably more similar to Halo 2 than you might think. I think Halo 3 actually is a linear evolution to Halo 2, but it changes things, and it changes things for the worse in some places. Personally, when I was growing up, Halo 3 was my first online shooter game. That was the first Halo game that I was exposed to. And so all these years, I'd always thought it was my favorite multiplayer. I'd always remembered it as being my favorite and being the best. But upon further teardown of these two games between Halo 2 and Halo 3, which I think have always been close contenders for the best Halo multiplayer universally. I mean, some people like Reach, some people like 4 and 5, whatever. But I think most of the older Halo fans, it's been a competition between Halo 2 and 3, and even some of the newer fans coming in can appreciate these two games. Halo 2 is a clear winner for one reason. Their lack of equipment, which, although equipment didn't do very much, I just thought that it was a lackluster addition, and map design. Now, some people may ask, well, Halo 3 actually took a lot of design cues from Halo 2 and brought them into Halo 3. The maps are very similar, but worse in some ways. And Halo 2 also had a few gems that were left in Halo 2, such as Lockout, which would be rehashed in Halo 3 in a lesser version of it that was also sold as DLC. Lockout Ascension, which had no clone in Halo 3, and it would be later recreated as Zenith in Halo 2 Anniversary. If some of you don't know what that one is. And it just had so many great maps. In Halo 3, the only new maps that it brings in are very symmetrical and very boring. So, really, I have to give it to Halo 2 as the best Halo multiplayer. The things Halo 3 does right, though, is the new social aspect of the game. This was the first time that Forge was in a Halo game, and Forge was actually probably a bigger addition than most people would think. Forge was actually a way for players to make their own maps, share them with the community. The community features in Halo 3 were unparalleled, and there's so much so that they brought them back in Halo Reach, and there have been slightly, albeit evolved versions of the Halo 3 social features, but pretty much the same. The file sharing and the game types and the Forge. Forge has had some good evolutions, even though it's kind of gone downhill lately. I think it was at its peak in Halo Reach. But Halo 3 was definitely an improvement on the social side of gaming, in Halo. And I think now that I've come to play these games more, I've been playing these games for years now, I think that I've come to appreciate that a little more than gunplay. But I still have to give my favorite Halo multiplayer to Halo 2. Moving on to Halo 4. Now, Halo 4 was probably one of the biggest departures from a classic Halo feel, and it departed into more of a, some people will say, Call of Duty feel, but personally, it wasn't that similar to Call of Duty, in my opinion. I felt that Halo 4 felt a lot like Halo. They just added things like sprinting, which brought Halo into more of a modern generation. It took Halo a long time to catch up with games like Call of Duty and Battlefield and added sprinting. Now, it was available in Halo Reach, but not to everybody because it was an armor ability, which you had to choose between sprinting, jetpacks, holograms, and all sorts of armor abilities. So I kind of don't count it. I kind of feel like, even though most people did opt to go with sprint, Halo 4 was the first Halo game that just you automatically got sprint and you could choose between other armor abilities. Now, the armor abilities in Halo 4 are way toned down from Halo Reach. Halo Reach, things like Armor Lock, Jetpack, and Hologram, could, and especially Sprint, could change a game into your favor if you knew how to use some of these correctly. These are replaced with things like Promethean Vision, Hard Light Shield, and the Auto Sentry, which are, albeit sound cool, and the ideas of especially the Auto Sentry sound cool, but really they didn't perform very well. The Hard Light Shield was armor lock, but worse. Promethean Vision was basically cloaking, but without turning invisible, and it was worse. These things are toned down extremely, quite a bit actually, in this game, and it makes it so that armor abilities almost don't even play a factor anymore in the Halo series, and that kind of sucks. They've been completely removed from Halo 5, so I think armor abilities are not going to come back anymore, but they're definitely, depending on how you view it, they basically didn't play a very good role. And Halo 4 also introduced a brand new perk system with things like very minor things like gunner, artillery. You could have your radar stay active when you're scoping in, but for the most part, these additions also didn't really provide any new sort of sensation with Halo. People were comparing it to Call of Duty. I really don't think that it's in the same realm as Call of Duty, since in Call of Duty, a lot of their perks change how the game goes, and it turns tables into other players' favors. But Halo 4 did include them, and I think that set a lot of people off from Halo 4. Moving on to Halo 5, which is the most recent multiplayer. I will be leaving Halo Reach out of this just because, I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to just do the numbered entries in the Halo series. Moving on to Halo 5. Now, Halo 5, a lot of people have been comparing it to Halo 2. They're saying that it's going back to the roots of Halo, which I somewhat do agree with that. I do agree. They removed armor abilities. They removed the perk system. Everyone is starting off with the same weapons, unlike the loadouts in Halo 4. I can see that. I can see why people would compare it to Halo 2. But Halo 5 also adds a new sense of mobility, which is something that I thought set Halo 2 apart more than the armor abilities and more than the perks, is that it was that arena-style mobility. It was just walking and jumping. That's all it was. Halo 5 brings in thruster packs, which you can use to thrust around. You can hover in midair. You can spar and pound on the ground, and you can... A lot of players have found really cool ways to use them, and I feel like this is a much bigger departure. This is just my personal opinion. I feel like it's a much bigger departure than armor abilities and loadouts ever were from the Halo series. But some of these new mobility features actually feel, when I play some of the older Halo games, I'm expecting them. I'm expecting to see Spartans hover in the air or ground pound. I'm expecting to, when I'm a little too far away to melee someone, that I'm going to thrust forward and hit them. That's another big thing with Halo 5, is that the melee system is extremely OP, because instead of having to get right up in a player's face, you can be a few feet behind them, in-game of course, and you can still thrust forward and punch them. So, long-range encounters have become even more imperative to the Halo series, because you cannot let players get up close to you, because they'll either ground pound you or they will thrust forward and they will one-hit melee you. There's been no balancing in this whatsoever, so I think that this melee system is here to stay for this entry in the series at least. But personally, I think it provides a new challenge, and since everyone has it, it's not that big of a deal to me. But I know some people are still hesitant about it. Halo 5 also brings back that Halo 2 style of maps, a very much arena style of maps. They also bring in microtransactions, which I should not go this entire video without talking about microtransactions. In the past, Halo would have no microtransactions, but they would release DLC map packs. Halo 5 is releasing all their DLC map packs for free if you own the game and if you have Xbox Live, of course. But the trade-off with that is now there are microtransactions, and it's not as invasive as some other games, but I think I would rather have these non-invasive microtransactions instead of having to pay for map packs, because some of the maps that are coming out are actually pretty stellar. They even announced a Battle Creek remake, which I'm extremely excited for. But all in all, Halo 5 still doesn't live up to Halo 2 in my opinion. I know a lot of people really do enjoy it. A lot of people enjoy the fact that there's a bigger sense of progression. There's more things to collect in Halo 5. Personally, Halo 2 will be the king for me for all time. So hopefully that was a helpful video to you guys explaining kind of the difference between all the Halo multiplayers. Yep, that was just basically a comprehensive breakdown of every single Halo multiplayer except for Reach. Comment below if you want me to do Reach, if you want to do any other game multiplayers, maybe Call of Duty, I don't know. Just an idea. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, this is Juniper, signing out. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video on Juniper Rising, and today we're going to be